Verse 376. Because of false imagination, the two Svabhavas are established. Where there is false imagination, multitudinousness of things is recognized, which being purified the spiritual condition of the wise obtains. This verse is very much in the context of the previous few verses. It follows on in substance really from the previous video, so it might be an idea to listen to the previous video before this one. So we've got this talk of the two Svabhavas again. Sometimes there's three Svabhavas. One of these is described as perfect knowledge. When there isn't this perfect knowledge, then we get caught up in these other two. And one of them is false imagination. And false imagination is basically how we imagine things to be, how we believe things to be. And how we believe things to be determines how we relate to the world. And how we relate to the world is the second Svabhava, the second of the two limited Svabhavas. So one of the basic things about how we believe things to be, in accordance with what's called here the false imagination, is that there's lots of things going on. There's lots of things out there. There's lots of things happening. There's lots of things in here too. That's included. As enlightenment practitioners, we step back from this. We step back in the realization that it's of no intrinsic substance. And certainly in terms of our own sense of being, it's got nothing to offer. Just the opposite. Everything that's going on out there siphons off our sense of being. A bit like sitting in front of the telly for too long. You feel enervated, drained. So this is what means being purified. We're not allowing our sense of being to be siphoned off into this apparent multitudinousness. Multitudinousness. So this is enlightenment practice. This is the condition of the wise. Verse 377 says, where there is false imagination, there is multitudinousness of objects, which are discriminated under the aspect of relativity. If otherwise discriminated, one becomes attached to the teachings of the philosophers. So this first phrase is just carrying on with what I said. It's just spelling out what I said about the first verse. This false imagination is the belief that there's lots of things going on out there. And so we start to relate to them in different ways, because there are different things. Some are desirable and some aren't so desirable. This is relativity, relating. Relate-ivity. And this is the dynamic that gets set up. We get happy when we get what we want, and we're not happy when we don't get what we want, and so on. This is our lives. And then when we start thinking about it, we might start thinking a little bit more deeply about it and how certain things relate to another. We might start getting into mathematics or physics and science or psychology or religion even. All these things are what are described here as the teachings of the philosophers, which we become attached to. And it doesn't really matter whether it's science, religion, philosophy, psychology, whatever. All of these things are dependent on the false imagination, Because the false imagination imagines that there's a me here and a world out there. They all assume that dichotomy. Although sometimes physics seems to be chipping at the edges of that. But as enlightenment practitioners, we can cut through to the chase directly. We step back from it all. We have a sense of our own being, our own awareness, which isn't actually ours at all, it's simply awareness, what's sometimes called the witness. We're no longer taken in by the dream. And at the same time, we do not reject the world, we do not reject the dream. We embrace it completely, because we're bigger than it. We're bigger than the dream.